So much for coming. Last Flourish of 2024. It's been a remarkable journey so far, and in fact last month, as you can see, we were upstairs in the Benito Lounge. Those of you that were there, hope did an amazing, really uplifting, exciting journey told with authenticity, and it was great. Thank you so much. And, yeah, this month Matt is going to showcase, and I have been so excited about this. When I got the slides through last night, there was one particular image I was just going, go on Matt, put it in, and he did. So you'll see it shortly, and yeah, hopefully you'll love it. It's a great story. So thank you so much for this. A couple of people haven't been before, so welcome Oliver and Katie. Really nice to have you with us. Everybody else has been before, amazing. So hopefully you're starting to see familiar faces, and some of you have met a few times now. So what we're doing is kind of serving its purpose, and hopefully people are starting to feel a little bit more connected perhaps than we did 6 months ago. That's kind of why we're here. So the agenda, we're going to hear from Matt in just a moment, and then I'm absolutely thrilled that Juliet has come to join us. Juliet and I've known each other for probably, my God, this is where it starts sounding, 25 years. And yeah, we had some adventures in Brighton at the turn of the century. And Juliet and I are going to talk about your adventures with products and services. And yeah, right, how do you choose, my gosh, and when to choose, and all of that. And then the food will be out from just after 1 actually. And so enjoy the food. There's always good pizzas here. Let's believe, Team Silo. Yes. Thank you very much. And then, yeah, we'll all be here. Juliet and Matt are around until 2 if you want to talk to them about what's in their presentations. Okay, cool. Right, that's it. So, Matt Reid. Here you are. Right, I'm just going to put your slides up. So, for the benefit of Katie and Oliver, have you ever seen Pecha presentations or done a Pecha?
Never.
20 slides or 20 visuals on the timer, 20 seconds each. Mm-hmm. So there's a rhythm which Matt is talking. Okay. Right, let's put you on and then we're ready to roll.
Right, so this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour of my career. I grew up in Croydon. I come from a sort of working class background, so I didn't really know anyone that worked in the creative industries. But I'd always been interested in art and design, wanted to be an artist. So I went to art school in Croydon to do a foundation, and then went to Kingston University to do a degree in, this is me when I was 21, 30 years ago, when I had better hair. My degree was in fine art intermedia, so I specialised in kind of video and animation. I was always interested in MTV and kind of animations and stuff like that, so that was my specialism. That led me on to working in the film industry. My first film that I worked on was Lock Stock. I worked as the assistant editor on this, but I got the job because I wrote 50 handwritten letters, sent them out to all the post-production companies and got a job as a runner, and worked my way up. Did editing for a few years, so this film was obviously really successful, and it kind of projected me into sort of a few years of working in the industry, but I wasn't really kind of that happy working in film because of the hours. But there's, in the back of my mind, I'd always wanted to make stained glass, and there was a book in the library that I found by this guy called Andrew Moore, and it really introduced me to a new way of working with stained glass beyond kind of religious glass. So I walked into a company in Wandsworth one day and asked for an apprenticeship. So completely different to what I've been doing before. Learned traditional stained glass methods, kind of the same way it's been made for hundreds of years. Worked in the studio for about 5 years and kind of specialised in making light boxes, which will come up in a minute. So made these light boxes which I sold, which were kind of ways of making stained glass, but you didn't need a window. Because that's the kind of limitation of stained glass windows, you need a space to put it. So by making these kind of mobile artworks, it was a way of kind of being a bit more commercial. So then went back to university, went to Central St Martin's to do a postgraduate in glass and architecture. This is a piece I made when I was at St Martin's. This was a competition that I won to put a piece into the Royal Society of Chemistry, so that's still there, it's a permanent exhibit. So I'm really proud of. I had to stand up in front of a bunch of Nobel Prize winner chemists and explain my concepts, and they believed me. My work was put into a couple of books. So this book on the left, the course that it was quite a prestigious course at St Martin's that ran for over 100 years and ended the year after I left. So they made a book to commemorate it. And my Royal Society of Chemistry piece was also included in this book, 100 Best Sites in London, which was a real honour because it's stained glass from sort of 16th century to now. The guy that was a guest lecturer on the course was the guy that wrote the book that originally got me interested, that I showed you before. He's a architectural glass consultant, and I still work for him. This is a job that we did for a John Lewis store in Cheltenham, so I designed the whole glass frontage of that. And you can see on the right, it's actually it's a series of dots that are printed in ceramic. Right. This is so I was also a designer for Mr. Maker on CBeebies for a while, and I came up with the ideas for the things that Mr. Maker made. One of my proudest ever things I've ever done is this mousse on the bottom right, which is a milk bottle with rubber gloves and a paper plate. I think thousands of kids around the country have probably made this, so I'm doing it. I also did fine art prints. This is a series of prints that I did based on kind of kaleidoscopic images. I used to spend my winters in India, and I got really kind of interested in sort of ancient Indian mandalas. I sold quite a few of these. They're still on my website, so if you're looking for Christmas presents, then I'll give you the link. That kind of led on to me being asked to direct a music video. This is a music video for an Italian band called Swing Growers. It's had nearly 8 million hits. It did really well for a rap company, not for me. They get the YouTube money out of that, not me. But it was a really interesting project that kind of led on that kaleidoscopic theme. This is me. So my sort of main job that I earn my money from is still in film, but I work in the art department as a set dresser. This is me on Red Wolf, just before lockdown. I love building spaceships. It's my favourite kind of thing to do to earn money. So this was a really great job to work on. I also sort of specialise in wallpapers as a kind of sideline to my film work. So these are wallpapers that have all been in films over the years. I did some stuff recently for Saltburn, but I specialise in recreating out-of-print designs, so I can get a small piece of it, scan it, and make new rolls from it. So production designers employ me to make new papers for films. When lockdown came around, it all stopped. So there was no work, no money. I was stuck in a flat because I was shielded because of my asthma. So to stop myself going mad, I wrote a film script, which is on the left, which I'm kind of on a second draft of now, and I did an MA. So I went back to university for the third time because the film work was great, but I was kind of a bit fed up with the hours and wanted to change my career. That led on to an interest in augmented reality, which is how I came up with the idea for the Bognor Regis Time Portal, which is on at the moment. It's a project that was originally a part of my course, but I managed to find the funding for the Arts Council and make it a reality. It's a free-to-use experience using your mobile phone. We might miss one, that's fine.
Sorry.
Oh no, middle one. It's all right.
There's a blank one.
Apologies. No, okay. So it's a free-to-use experience. It's had over 50,000 people come see it so far. It's on until next September. People can come along, scan their phone, and a hologram of this woman appears. She's called Mary Wheatland. She worked on the beach in the 1900s and was a really amazing person that we brought sort of back into the 21st century. And we've also got these models of bathing machines which were on the beach, which has, because the project's been so successful, I've started a company called X-Ray in order to kind of deal with, with new projects that are on the horizon. I've got some funding applications at the moment to sort of take this concept further. So hopefully we're doing Charles Dickens next. We've got a bunch of historical sites interested in kind of creating similar experiences. And this is me in Mr. Maker. So this is my last slide. This is I was a wizard, a dancing wizard, and also Santa in the show. So that's another career highlight. And that's my 20 slides.
Wow.
Brilliant. Sorry about the gap in there.
That's right.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you. Any questions for Matt? Where to start?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You never told us about the stained glass.
That for years, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another time.
Yes.
Thank you. So,
can I ask Matt a question?
yes. Oh, please do.
I just want to know, how have you managed to move through so many different media and things, and manage to keep being successful?
Successful. Well, I mean, the thing is, that I suppose I've had a portfolio career, so I've done lots of different things side by side. I've also worked in sort of music and events alongside, which I hadn't mentioned today, but it's all about kind of that kind of gig economy. You sort of work on whatever's available at the time. But I've managed to keep these kind of different routes of work kind of going on all the way through my career. So if one's quiet, hopefully there's something to do in the other area, you know. But as I've got older, and doing this as an exercise makes me realise that there are connections between them, and there are things that I kind of constantly kind of come back to, which it's been a really useful thing for me to do.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So if Mr. Maker isn't actually creative because they're all your ideas, what is he actually talented in?
What, sorry?
What is he actually talented in?
He's a very good presenter. He does. I mean, he's very good at following instructions. The thing is, we have to come up with lots. There was a few of us doing the kind of concepts for the makes, but we have to break it down into kind of stages. So that just saves all that time. So when he comes around to filming, it's all laid out for him. You know? And we had to make each make in different stages, so that every time he needed one.
It's
And
like
if he needed another, if he broke one, there'd be a spare.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of work behind the scenes that Mr. Maker couldn't do by himself. Sorry to ruin the magic.
Any other questions?
Probably a follow-up for just what's your advice about breaking into a new sort of creative field? Because you've sort of said you've taken a lot of initiative and written letters to people, you've kind of been present. How, if you were going to do something completely new today, where would you start?
Well, I'm doing something completely new. I think it's about networking. You've got to put yourself out there and be relentless. Just write to people. Not everyone writes back, but a lot of people do. I use LinkedIn a lot. I'm contacting people through networks. People, things like this program has introduced me to some people, and just be relentless and don't be shy. You know, and it's hard for me to say, but you've got to believe in yourself, which I haven't always done. I suffer from imposter syndrome, like a lot of us do, and sometimes I don't think I'm kind of worthy of it, or you know, you've got to get over that and just kind of keep going, push yourself out there, and you know, because you've got to earn a living at the end of the day. So if you don't do it, no one else will do it for you.
Usually talented people think, I didn't know anything about any of those, like the glass works and
What a fairy. Yeah.
I only moved here in February, and the first time I went down to Bognor, Georgina showed me the portal of the AR. I was blown away by it, so I had no clue you were behind that. Whereabouts are you planning to do the Charles Dickens one? Will you replace the current model in Bognor, or are you going to do it at a different location?
The one in Bognor runs until September, and it changes every couple of months. We've just changed it for Christmas, so if you go down there now, she's got a snowman and a Christmas tree in the space with her. The Charles Dickens one's hoped to be in Portsmouth. It's where he was born, so we're going to do something at the house where he was born. I'm applying for R&D funding to try and create an AI version of Charles Dickens, so that you can actually talk to the avatar, it will talk back to you, so you'll be able to ask your questions about his life. We're quite a long way off that. Hopefully next year I'll get some funding to develop that using AI.
Did you design the AI interaction yourself, or did you partner with a team or someone else?
It's all about teamwork. You know, collaboration is the only way you can get these big projects to work. You know, I've got very limited kind of technical abilities. I don't know how to code or do 3D modelling even. My role on that project was a creative director role, but I couldn't have done it without the team of people, from the actress to the costume maker to the software developers to it takes a team of people. So it's all about collaboration.
So you did paint it.
Sorry?
You did paint it.
I did paint it, but I did it badly, so I had to get a professional to So there you go, you can't do everything.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Matt. That's amazing. Right. So Juliet's with us, and as I said, we've been friends for a long time, as in professional friends, and lived in the same part of Brighton, got kids about the same age. In fact, my daughter was in your son's film studies class, I discovered when I mentioned your name. Yeah. Hattie Byford, Jude Tzabar. I've learned. So there we go. So Brighton's a small place. Juliet has done some amazing things. Sweet Potato, you might recognise up there. Day for random children's connections. But we're going to talk about products versus services, because it's a really challenging thing for many of us in creative. When you start being creative, and like Matt says, you've got to earn money, often the kind of default position is, well, let's just sell our time and see where that takes us. But wouldn't the dream ticket be to have some products that earn us money, so we don't have to work every hour and charge for every hour? So we're kind of in that territory with the conversation. So should we have a bit of a chat about these things? So I'm going to come and sit with you. I've got a few questions, but I wanted to start from the point of view really about just asking about how you got into running creative businesses, because I think that's valuable for everyone, right? What was the starting point?
Okay, so what was the starting point? I had a creative background, a bit of overlap with you. In fact, I studied, first of all I did a degree in English, and then I studied theatre design. And I came out of the theatre design course and didn't really know what to do, couldn't get any work in the industry. But eventually sort of picked up a few bits and pieces, did a bit of Fringe theatre, and then became an assistant art director in TV and film. But gigs, just short jobs here and there. And I wasn't, in my early 20s, I was really bad at being freelance. I wasn't very assertive, I didn't put myself out there, didn't really know how to get work. So I'd have these massive big gaps in what I was doing. So I'd go and work on a film for 6 weeks, and then I'd not work for the next 3 months, except I did work because I was a secretarial temp, and so that kept me busy. But I suppose it also enabled me to be a bit organised, and it developed my organisational side. Sorry, it's a really long story. Then the next stage of my career was that so with these big gaps, I was like, how can I smooth this out a bit? And it was just at the time, so this was around about 98, 99 probably, when the internet, kind of entertainment on the internet was quite a new thing. It had been kind of academia, and now it's like, oh, you can do entertainment, you can do commerce. So I thought, I'm going to look at this multimedia thing, and people were making CD-ROMs, and I thought it was quite a good place for me to combine sort of my creative side with my organisational side, and look at how you can tell stories in new ways, I suppose. So at that point I went and did a course at it was University of Sussex with an organisation called Lighthouse. And it was called Multimedia Design and Management, and I did 2 days a week, learning to code, learning Photoshop, learning Flash, learning Director, we used a bit then. And by the end of that course, I realised that I wasn't a very good graphic designer, or I told myself I wasn't a very good graphic designer, and that I was much better at telling people what to do. So that led me to an opportunity at Victoria Real, which was a digital agency. This was around about 99, 2000, and I decided I was going to be a producer because I was better at kind of getting the team to do stuff and to run the project, rather than being the person who was making the project directly, who had the creative skills directly within the project. So that sort of led me into the producing and then managing director side of things. So I went from Victoria Real to working freelance, where I worked with Jim, and then set up my own business which specialised in doing digital content for kids. There was a project I'd done early on at Victoria Real, which was like a website for things to do in the school holidays for kids, and so then I knew that I was quite interested in looking at children's entertainment, and so we did that. Set up one small business. I did that for about 3 years, but ultimately decided to part my ways with my business partner, and then joined with my current business partner back in 2006, I think. And we had a successful business which actually still exists, and actually most of the journey that I'm going to talk about is focused in that business, which was Plug-in Media. And this very latest chapter is Brighton Zoo, which is a joint venture between Plug-in Media and a large animation studio in London called Brighton Zoo, which came out of during the pandemic, and they realised they needed regional capacity because a lot of production happens regionally, and we were struggling to find ways to grow because we were quite a small business, so we decided to join forces, and out of that we now have Brighton Zoo.
Brilliant. So, casting back to 2006, your business partner Dom, also freelance at Get Frank, and so Brighton as a network was great for this, wasn't it? And I think it's fair to say what we're trying to do here is learn a bit of that, where I can imagine many of you working together collaboratively, because it's kind of what happened for us, right? We were at Victoria, we overlapped, but then we kind of came out of it and had slightly different interests, but we kind of knew where the skills were in the town. So Dom joined you, he's an animator. And first of all, my recollection was you were doing TV support type stuff for BBC Channel 4? So selling services? And selling project time, basically?
Yes, for sure. So we became quite niche at using software called Flash. We also had a third business partner in those days who was our technical director, so we had kind of creative production and technical, the three directors, and I kind of grew the business with Seth for a bit as well, but we were doing quite experimental stuff, which was, it doesn't sound remotely experimental anymore, but it was 3D over the internet through a web browser, which was quite a technical thing to have to do. And on the one end of it, the services we did, we were working with ad agencies, and we had this phase, we always used to laugh about it because we ended up doing a whole load of like 3D visualizations for Philips hair removal products. We were like shavers and all that kind of stuff, and we would do like a 3D turnaround of an electric shaver. And once I remember there's like these laser hair removal things that you can get, and we had to do one of those, and it was so under wraps, that product, that the guy in a courier was waiting downstairs while we quickly photographed it so we could model it. But alongside all of that, Dom and I had already worked on a kids project at Victoria Real, so we were like, well, we want to focus a bit on kids entertainment. So we then worked on a project called Big and Small, which was a kids TV show, it was a puppet show. I'd done another scheme actually that was probably similar to what you guys have been doing, but it was like a kind of creative businesses all get together, see what we can learn off one another. And I'd met a TV producer through that who made the show Big and Small, and it was just as BBC was starting to look at what they could do on the web, and we pitched an idea which was to do a website to accompany this TV show. And when we did it, it was using all the 3D visualization stuff that was so kind of game-changing at the time. We built a 3D world, you could explore around it, and that won us a BAFTA and led us to a whole load of work that was with other kids' IPs, so lots of TV companies. So if you don't know about the TV world, there's, I don't even know the date of the terms of trade, but back in the 90s or something? Or early 2000s.
Pact and Fred Hassan and all of that was probably 98, 99. So there's a TV Producers Alliance called Pact, and they negotiated what's called the terms of trade, and that basically meant that TV companies could, instead of selling their IP to the broadcaster, they would own the rights to their IP, and the broadcaster pays a license for those rights. So they have the right to exploit them, sell their content overseas, get other shows made off the same idea. And so at the time when we started doing the web stuff, we were like, oh well, we can make, the TV company owns the website, we can license that, and it all began it started with the beginning of a kind of slightly new model for the business, where we could make something once and then make money off of it. So yes, we did lots of service work for
different TV companies to begin with, and then slowly but surely we started to kind of.
Yeah, right. So was there a conscious choice to move towards products and your IP?
Yeah.
And
so
how
for
long
sure.
did it take to get all your income coming from that route?
It's not all our income, and
No.
that's probably one of the things I will say actually.
Okay,
that,
fair enough.
you
So
know,
still-
I think the mix is important.
Yeah. Okay.
So we so we were doing lots of work with other TV companies. Some of them we owned a bit of a share in it, but a lot of it was like, you do the work, we'll pay you to do the work, and then we'll take your content that you've made away and make money off of it. So we were like, well, hang on a minute, what are we doing here? We're just selling our best ideas for a day rate, and it doesn't really live beyond that particular project. And so we, at that point, decided we were going to start a IP strategy where we were going to see what we could develop for ourselves and see if we could be the people who had the product that was then generating the revenue. So we actually drew ourselves a line, which was like, I think we were at 100% service. We were at 95% service, and we wanted to swing to. I think our first point on that line was like 60% product, and I think probably a few years we were probably on about, I don't know, probably about 5 or so years we got to about 80% product, and now like Plug-in Media is kind of all product, and Brighton Zoo's a bit of a mix. But yes, so we decided we were going to go along that journey, and we. I think quite often, if you're in a sort of visual, creative industry, it's very easy to assume that the IP is in the, if you've designed a character, the IP is the character, but actually coming from multimedia, I was very conscious also that the IP is quite often in the tech side of it as well. So we didn't just focus on coming up with a new kids TV show. We were also looking across the tech that we had, and we had a product within Plug-in Media that's a piece of sort of real-time puppeting animation technology that is a kind of product as well. So it's been a bit of a mix, but
So did you, when you focused on products, did you have a strategy for, we're going to have licenses for tech, we're going to have licenses for a series format and uses in territories, or how did you set that up? Did you get lawyers involved to help you draw up agreements, or how did that bit come about?
Well, I think we started a lot of the time. We started with the idea. It was like I think we had a slate of about 6 or so ideas, and everything takes such a long time. And when the downside of it is the financing isn't as immediate as it is when you're selling services. So our one of the most successful project to come out of that strategy was T&Bo, which is a TV show on CBeebies, but it actually started as a suite. So we thought, we're going to do something. Well, my business partner wanted to do something about the relationship between him and his mum. It's really cute. But it's about a first-time mum learning to be a mum, and a child learning to be a kid, and then what that relationship between the two of them entails, and the stories you can tell around that. And they also happen to be monkeys. So we started with games. I think initially we might have said, we want to make an animated series, and they were like, well, you make games, so how about you start off making some games? So we looked at how you could build 2-player games for parents and children to enjoy
Was
together.
this BBC?
Yes, they got behind it quite early on. So we started off by doing games, but then that led us to, so my business partner had done lots of music, and we went into making music. So then we made 9 songs for BBC, which were became animated music videos that were on the channel and then on YouTube. And then we made an album of music, which we now is on all music streaming platforms. We made an app, 2 apps, which generate revenues as well. Then we made a TV series. So then we made 50 episodes of television, and that journey took, I think it was about 5 years to get to the point where we had because they always say like a TV, like an animated TV project is a 7-year cycle, which is it's a really long time, because they say it's like a year to develop the property, it's 2 years to raise the finance to make it, 2 years to make it, then it's got to go out, and then by the time you see any revenues and start to make any money from it, if you're lucky, it's a 7-year cycle. So it's a bit of a slow business.
So financing, this shift from services to products, I spent a lot of time trying to crack that conundrum early on. You managed to do it. Did you raise external finance in addition to the money for specific properties?
So what people don't understand quite often is that, so like if you, in BBC Children's, which is probably the most underfunded area of TV content, kind of, it's like factual entertainment is much better funded, drama's much better funded, kids entertainment is quite badly funded. So you get, I mean, when we did Tumo, I think we got 28% of our budget from the BBC, which was the max you could get. And that's a project that was like £2.5 million for the series. So then we had quite a lot of finance to raise. So we're very lucky with creative industry tax credits, so that gets you up to about 48% there-ish. Then we, so the great thing about particularly developing a kids property is that they can become brands, and you can do toys, and you can do books and music, and whatever it ends up being. And so then we raise finance against our rights in merchandising and against international TV sales. So they put a chunk in, but then.
So how did you actually go about doing that?
So there's
quite an agent, or?
No, but there are quite a lot of markets for selling this kind of stuff. So I did like to pitch at something called Cartoon Forum, where it's like a massive animation pitching competition. So I did that. You get quite a lot of meetings out of that. There's the big TV markets like MIPCOM, and there's one in America as well. So I mean, all our service work was still funding all of this for me to go to America to do another market, and I mean, it did take, I think it took 2 years to get the first series funded, and in the end we did what's called a co-production, so on that series. So we worked with Canada in the end, and did a split of services between the UK and Canada. So public funding in Canada, I got some public funding, actually I got some of the Coast to Capital funding, really small grant, but it was enough to pay for actual computers for animators to use in studio. So, and then finally, the final piece, because you always get to like 95%, and you're like, oh, I've got to just find the last 200,000 or whatever it is, and it's still quite a lot of money. But we ended up getting a small amount of private investment from friends and family. And eventually, through the whole process, we are now generating revenues, and everyone's receiving royalties, and it has been a success, although it's not a Hey Dougie or a Bluey success. It's a kind of it's a smaller IP success.
That's brilliant. Thank you. There's the relationship I'm also interested in is about Blue Zoo, right, with a London agency. So big organisation already, and you mentioned in the beginning about wanting a regional presence. Brighton obviously as a centre, lots of talent is the primary reason. Entering into a partnership with them in order to create a joint venture, I've been down that road, and that's tricky. But how did you know that they were the right partners? Because that's difficult.
We worked together early on, actually, so through our service work. So as well, within independent television, there's lots of independent producers, but there's also people like the BBC make their own content as well. So we worked on a BBC show called Zingzillers, which was like a kids' music show, and Blue Zoo were animating that, and we were making the interactive content for that one. And so we had a partnership with them at that time, and then we worked on probably 5 or 6 projects with them, and they would do some of the 3D stuff, and we'd bring that into our work, and so we had a partnership. And then it's a small industry, kids TV, so everyone knows each other, and it's generally very very kind of collaborative and helpful industry. And I think it was during the pandemic, Ollie, who's one of their directors, had said, I was watching some kind of webinar thing, and Ollie was like, oh yeah, I want to get everyone in my studio wants to move out of London. They want to move somewhere with beginning with B. I think he actually meant Bristol, because Bristol's a great centre for animation. But Dom and I were a bit like, Ollie, how about Brighton? And then we agreed to pitch for Super Potato together to see how it went, and that was so that is something we don't own Super Potato at all. It's not, it's a service project, a big service project, but that is a BBC project. They bought the rights to the book, and then
The book comes from a writer in Brighton.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So yeah, we pitched jointly to do that, and that enabled us to gave us the backbone to set up the business really.
So the whole shift towards products is only possible by having collaborative relationships that enable you to test out commercial relationships where the creative ambition is kind of mutually reinforcing, I guess.
Yeah, and I think very much kind of keeping the service side going, because you know, it's like, I mean, I'd love to say that we were a if TMO has been as successful as Hey Dougie or Peppa Pig, you know, we wouldn't have to do any service work at all. But we've always had a mix, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And I think it's absolutely amazing that we have terms of trade. We can hold much of our own IP. Continue to own our IP in the properties we develop. But if you look at the American model, like with a Netflix or something, they take absolutely all your rights, but they pay a premium, and you need that cash flow wise to keep things moving. So I do think there's value in making sure you try and continue with your service side, at least while you're trying out product, because I mean, it's a horrible balance, it really is, because it's you know, the client, you know, you've got you know, even with TMO at the moment, I've got a bit of I managed to get, I'm still able to use grants, so I've got some money from the BFI at the moment to make it international. So we're doing like Spanish translations and German translations, which has been brilliant because it's all paid for by the BFI, and we will get the revenues from YouTube and the TV companies once it's sold. But even that project, because there's been so many other projects coming in through the door, just about managed to beat all our KPIs for the year, but it's really hard to keep it going, because when you've got someone knocking on the door saying, here, I'm going to pay you to do this, and you look at your cash flow and you're like, okay, yeah, I better do that job. So yeah, it's a hard balance, but it is really worth it. And we have, you know, I think one of the big successes of TMO is how many platforms it's on. So that, I mean, it's a nightmare when I have to account royalties to everyone, because we've got revenues from, I don't know if anyone's involved with music at all, but like music royalties are just quagmire, absolutely impossible to understand all the different sides and factors to it. But we've got, you know, we were our own record company for a bit, so we were getting all the recording revenues. Then there's the performance revenues, so you've got a number of different revenue streams there, and then we're sharing out to composers, and then we've got the TV sales, which are the international sales, so that's sharing with our Canadian partners. And then we've also got app sales, which come straight to us. Then we've got books and a few products. Some of the products come straight to us. The books are still working out their advance. And there's things like, you know, we get money from Picture House cinemas when it goes on, and some of it's like pennies, like absolute pennies. At the moment I'm like, why have we paid for our G drive this month? Because we haven't, well, we have made that much, but it's like, you know, that basically wipes out cinema revenues. So, you know, it's hard.
So there's a complicated spreadsheet.
Really complicated.
A lot of different revenue dimensions.
Yeah.
So it's not a one shift to that line you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's never going to be 100% products. Do you think if you could, like you said, TMO, if there was one property that could do it, does that actually work? I mean, my experience with running studios, as you know, when you were involved, we had such an eclectic range of projects. It was great for training young people. It was great for people from middle layer to take on responsibilities, and then, you know, you enable growth at scale that way. So in a way, it's almost like the mixed economy of products and services is kind of essential.
Yeah.
on lots of levels, but you'd ideally like it to be more products than services, yes.
Well, I mean, I'd like to say that the product, I mean, we do make money while we sleep, but actually we still have to service that, you know, we still have to, you know, I have to do the royalty spreadsheet, my production assistant, you know, still does a bit of social media. It's like, you know, it does have costs associated with it. It's just that your margin, you know, like a typical, like a TV margin is 10% profit margin on a service job, which is, you know, it's fine if your project's 5 million, but and like agency margins like 20 to 30%. With TMO, our margin at the moment is probably around about 65%, so it's a much better margin. And then, but then there's always the argument, it's like, well, if we invest more, then maybe we can generate more. And you know, like the localization work we're doing at the moment, it's like, well, we've got grant to do some of it, but then we've got to let the whole of the Spanish-speaking world know that TMO exists. So how do we reach them, and what's that tipping point between the amount of marketing? Because that is, I mean, that's, you know, the biggest challenge with the product, especially when you come from a creative services business and you don't really know marketing. You know, we make stuff and then give it to someone and they plug it into their marketing program and they worry about it. And you know, me and anyone else in my business hasn't really come from that background, so it's quite a learning curve. And you know, when you look at like marketing games, you know, they're like enormous budgets, at least as much as you spend making something you're spending on marketing it, and games as well. So you know, there's always a nag that, you know, have you speculated enough in order to accumulate more, I guess.
So ongoing investment potentially required to scale to the next level?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, there's, you know, possibly there's a benefit to a kid's IP in that the audience renews, and so it does keep coming back. And we've got a 5-year deal with BBC, so they've renewed, and so but it's still not as big as it was when it first launched. But the long tail is, you know, there's a lot in the long tail, and particularly with platforms like YouTube, and you know, you can do quite a lot with that. So I don't know. I mean, at the moment, we did a second series of TMO, and it was a horrible experience. I had a horrendous time. We chose our partners on that project really badly. It was horrific. Our partners went bankrupt. We had to manage horrendous cash flow issues. And now I can't face the idea of doing another series, even though they might be interested in. But we got 70 episodes. That's quite a lot. So
Okay, I'm just conscious of allowing some time for questions because we've gone way over, but the food is coming out shortly. Should we just do a couple of questions and then we'll go for food, and if you want to talk to Juliet, you're here to do that.
yes.
Brilliant. Rachel, go for it.
Hi.
I think we might have met at Ryan Sussex.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
quite possibly. Yeah.
I was just curious, when you go to the BBC for the first time, especially if you're doing games and you're not necessarily doing series, do they look for your credentials, or do they just look for the creative aspect? You know, do they say, okay, this is something we could really sell?
Yeah.
Or does it matter who you are and what you've been doing?
I mean, I think for us it mattered that we weren't in there fresh. We'd done quite a lot of work, and we were, you know, we were really well respected and well trusted. They definitely want that relationship of trust. However, they are doing much more to encourage new people into the industry. They have a scheme called Ignite, where like people like our studio would be able to put something in, but an individual creator would be like, I've got this great idea for a series, and you put the idea in, and if they pick it up, and it's very competitive, but if they pick it up, they'll then partner with you with a company like ours, and then they know that a company like ours will have the capacity to deliver, and they'll also get the great idea from a new creator who's bringing a fresh voice. So they are doing more like that, I think.
So the landscape's changing with TV now, right? So people aren't watching TV as much. So it's all YouTube, possibly. but who funds the programmes then? So
Exactly, yeah.
BBC aren't going to fund it, are they? Or maybe they will, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really challenging market at the moment, and my current focus within Writing Zoo is to look at sort of content for post TV generation. And actually, I was reading about Channel 4 yesterday, who are upping their digital video budget. We're not just looking at digital video, social video, we're also looking at immersive as well, and other areas where we can use our skills, but incredibly challenging. And I think the biggest, particularly with the children's audience, and quite often the children's audience kind of adopts first, and then the grown-up content, I say grown-up instead of adult content, obviously. The grown-up audience follows. And the revenue model is really difficult. So I've got a project that I've been doing at the moment, which is a set of comedy sketches for a toy company called Fuddlers. In fact, it's part owned by us as well, so there's some of our investment going in, and we're generating revenues from it. But really challenging for the audience, because they are toys, but actually they're collector toys, so they're aimed at, like, our primary audience for that project has been kidults, and so we've done like comedy sketches which probably would feel quite familiar if you were like watching Adult Swim or something like that, and that is just a YouTube proposal at the moment, and yeah, the revenues are ridiculous, they're minuscule. At the moment, the revenues are minuscule, so there's a lot of sort of gaming the algorithm that's happening. People, there's a digital team within Blue Zoom looking at that and trying to bring your content to the fore. But with the content, the kids' content, I mean, the kids' audience probably primarily YouTube focused, but increasingly, you know, like TikTok and other social video platforms where people argue they shouldn't be. But now that content is made by anyone, and you know, they're probably more engaged by an influencer than they are by a TV brand deciding that they're going to go on to TikTok in order to look authentic to their audience. So yeah, it's a big challenge at the moment, I would say. It's the biggest challenge.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Juliet.